This is 9.1. It's circles and parabolas in this lesson, but we're only doing the first part today. So this is going to be 9.1 notes part 1. I'm going to put it on YouTube when we're done here. But guys, a circle is a set of all points, right? Set of all points in a plane that is equidistant from a center point. It's a fixed point in the middle. Equidistant means all the points on this circle, right? All the way around this circle right here. If I can get all of these points are the same distance away from the center, right? We know that. We have learned before in prior math classes that your center in the equation of a circle is your h and your k. Okay, we're going to talk about that. Because you have to differentiate between when they tell you what the center is, that's your h and the k, or if they tell you a point on the circle, which just means that's your x and y value. In order to find the radius, guys, you're just going to plug in the point that they give you, you're going to plug in the center, and you're going to find the radius. It's just the distance formula. Everybody okay? Here is the standard form of the equation of a circle. Just like when we have y equals mx plus b, right? The equation of a line. If I have y equals mx plus b. When we write the standard equation of a line, your y and your x stay as variables, right? Your slope is in there as a number, and so is the y-intercept. The same thing is going to be the case when you write the equation of a circle. Your x and your y in your final answer should be the letters x and y. Your center is right here, the h and the k, and then your r squared is your radius squared. What you guys need to pay attention to is the signs in the middle, right here, are what? Negative. So when you plug a negative number in there, it becomes what kind of a sign? Positive. Okay? Just got to make sure that you guys remember to switch. Like if I gave you this, if I said x minus 3 squared plus y plus 7 squared equals 16. And I said to you guys, identify for me the center of this circle. Your center is h and k. But remember, when you plug in a positive number, it looks like a negative in the equation. So my center, when you take the center out, when you're given an equation in standard form, it's the opposite. So it would be 3 comma negative 7. And then what's my radius? Nope. What's my radius? 4. Why is it 4, not plus or minus 4? Because I took the square root, right? That's how I got 4. Why isn't it plus or minus 4? Because it's a length. Good. It's a distance. You wouldn't say it's negative 4 units. Okay, so let's look at this first equation, or first question. It says, write the standard form of an equation of a circle. You need 2 things to write the equation of a circle. You need a center, and you need a radius. Very rarely do they just give you both of those things and say write the equation of a circle. In this case, what did they give me? They gave me the center, okay? They're telling me my center is at negative 2 comma negative 3. And they gave me a point on the circle. But in order to write the equation of the circle, I need these 2 things. Do I have the radius? No, so let's find it first, right? Your standard form of an equation is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals radius squared. You guys with me? Now we're trying to find r. They gave me an x and y value that I can use, and they gave me the h and the k. What is the x value that they gave me to use? 1. Correct, 1. That's my x value. What is the h value that they gave me? Negative 2. So my equation says 1 minus negative 2, right, squared, plus what's the y value that they gave me to use? 4, minus what's the k they gave me to use? Yep, negative 3 equals r squared. Agreed? So what's 1 minus a negative 2? So it's 3 squared plus what's 4, excuse me, minus negative 3. 7 squared equals r squared. What's 3 squared? Plus, what's 7 squared? Equals r squared. So what does r squared equal? 58. If I needed to find out what just plain old r was, what would you guys tell me? The square root of 58. And we'd break it down if we could. Don't worry about that right now, though. So my radius is the square root of 58. So the two things you need to write the equation of a circle is the center and a radius, correct? Do we now have those two things? Yeah. So now you can write your equation of your circle in standard form. Again, I'm going to write out the formula, x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Now we're just going to plug in. When you're writing the equation of a circle, just like you would with the equation of the line, your y and your x stay y and x's. My equation would be x minus, what was my h? Negative 2 squared plus y minus, what was k? Yep. Negative 3 squared equals my radius squared. Now just clean that up so it looks prettier. Minus a negative is a, so x plus 2 squared plus what? Y plus 3 squared equals what? Yep, what happens when you square a square root? They cancel out, you get 58. Perfect, good. Now, if they gave you that and they said, tell me the center and the radius from here, remember, when you take it out of the equation, it's the opposite because there's a negative sign in your formula. So the center would be at negative 2, comma, negative 3, and your radius would be the square root of 58. Question, Madison. To write the equation of the circle, what I have boxed out in red is what we're looking for. All the other work is how you get there. Okay, we're good? All right, is it down or in the next page? All right, this is the hardest problem that we're going to have to do, and it's completing the square. You guys don't like to do it. You probably haven't seen this since Algebra 2. But if you're given an equation like this, you just can't look at it and go, oh, I can see what the center is. Can you? No. So we're going to do something called completing the square. It's real easy, guys, I promise. The reason we can do this is because we're looking at a circle, and notice what the sign is in between your x values and your y values. See how it's positive? Yes or no? Okay, so watch. We're going to group these together. We're going to keep our x's together, and we're going to keep our y's together. And again, we can do this because there's a plus sign in the middle. The first thing you're going to do after you group is you want to move whatever constant is on this side, you want to move it to the other side. So watch how I rewrite this. I'm going to write this as x squared minus 6x, and then leave a little space, plus y squared minus 2y, and leave a little space. And then what does that 6 become when I move it to the other side? Negative 6. Good. Now, some of you might be saying, oh, I don't really remember this. That's okay. We're just factoring backwards is kind of how you can think about it. We're completing the square. I need to figure out what goes here and what goes here to finish my trinomial. And what you do to one side of an equation, you do where? To the other. Okay, so watch how easy this is. This is my b term right there. Agreed? Okay, so you take your b term and you divide it by 2. So I have negative 6 divided by 2 gives me what? Negative 3. Everybody understand that? Yes or no? So my parenthesis here for my x is going to be x minus 3. Now this is a quadratic, right? It's squared. So what would this term be right here? It's not going to be minus 3. If I was going to write this as a quadratic, this would be negative 3 squared, which is how much? 9. So if you add 9 there, where else do you add 9? To the other side. Now we're going to do the same thing. Put our plus. What is your b term in our green? Our b term is negative 2. So I'm going to say negative 2. We divide that b term by 2, right? What do I get? What's negative 2 divided by positive 2? Negative 1. So my parenthesis here is y minus 1. And then I got to figure out what's going to go in that box. Well, since this is a quadratic, I'd say negative 1 squared, and I'd make it a what? Positive 1. What you do to one side of the equation, guys, you do where? So I'm going to add 1 to this side. Do you guys agree with me? Look, if I wrote out, I'm going to do it over here. If I said x minus 3 times x minus 3, and I FOIL it out, x times x is x squared. X times negative 3 is negative 3x. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x. Negative 3 and negative 3 is positive 9, right? X squared minus 6x plus 9. Is that what we had right there? So all you did was just factor that. You factored it by what's called completing the square. So on the left-hand side, I have x minus 3 squared plus y minus 1 squared. You should already be able to tell me what the center is. What's the center of my circle? It's positive 3 comma positive 1. Good. And then we have to finish. We didn't finish on this side over here. What's negative 6 plus 9 plus 1? Positive 4. So this says equals 4. Well, what's my radius? Remember, our equation of our circle is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals radius what? Squared. So what is the radius of this circle? No, it's radius squared. So how do you get the square to go away? You take the square root. What's the square root of 4, guys? 2. The question asks you to identify the center and the radius. There's your center, there's your radius. If you're given an equation in standard form, it's really easy to look at. Standard form is right here with our parentheses. They didn't give it to us in standard form. They gave it to us with x squared and an x, and then a y squared and a y. So we had to complete the square is what you call that. You're just figuring out what the trinomial would look like. All you do is take the b term, divide it by 2. That's what goes in the parenthesis. Then you square it, and that's what you add to the other side. If you were going to sketch this circle, your center would be at 3, 1, so over 3, up 1. And then your radius is 2. So from that point, you're going to go up 2 and put a point, to the right 2, put a point, down 2, put a point, left 2, put a point, and then there's your circle. Because each point on the circle is equidistant. It's the same distance away. Okay, we're going to find intercepts. What does that mean to find intercepts? Where the graph crosses what? The x and the y, right? How do you find intercepts? You plug in 0, right? If I want to find the y-intercept, I plug in 0 for x. So let's do that. It takes 2 seconds to do this, guys, but I need to see work when you're doing this. So if I'm going to find the y-intercept, let's do this together. I'm going to plug in 0 for x. So watch, I have 0 minus 4 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals 16. It's important to keep your parentheses. Don't forget those. So just simplify. What's 0 minus 4? Okay, so negative 4 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals 16. Agreed? Well, what's negative 4 squared? So I have 16. 16 plus y minus 2 squared equals 16. All right, I'm trying to solve for y, so what do? I want to get y by itself. Not yet, not yet, not yet. We got to get y all by itself first. I got to move the 16 first. Okay, we're going to move the 16 first. So I have my parenthesis of y minus 2 squared by itself. 16 minus 16 is 0, right? Before I can move the 2, what do I have to do to get that squared to go away? Perfect. I take the square root of this side, take the square root of this side. When you take the square root, what goes in front of the square root sign? Plus or minus, yes. Is there a positive, negative 0? No, so you don't have to write it there, but this cancels this out. So you have y minus 2 equals 0. How do you solve for y? So you're going to add 2 to both sides. So y equals 2. So you're going to write your intercepts, guys, as ordered pairs. What would the ordered pair be for your intercept that y is 2? What is your x value? Be 0, comma 2. Questions? Now we're going to do the exact same thing, but what are we going to plug in? No. What did we just find? We found the y-intercept, right? So now we're going to find what? The x-intercept, correct. So I'm going to come over here and find the x-intercept. So in the case of the y, we plugged in 0 for x. So now if we're trying to find x, we plug in 0 for, yeah. So x minus 4 squared plus 0 minus 2 squared equals 16. This is basic algebra, guys. X minus 4 squared plus, what's 0 minus 2? Negative 2 squared equals 16. What's negative 2 squared? Good. Now I need to get that x minus 4 squared all by itself. So what do I have to do? Perfect. Subtract 4. Good. So I have x minus 4 squared, that cancels out, equals 12. Now what? Perfect. Take the square root. I put the square root on top of 12, so what goes in front of it? Plus or minus. Good. That's important, guys. So you have x minus 4 equals plus or minus the square root of 12. Can we break down 12? Yep. To what? Okay. Neither of those are perfect squares, though. Yep. 4 and 3. Right? So I have x minus 4 equals plus or minus. What would that become? 2 square root of 3. Good. Now I have one more step because x is not by itself yet. So what should I do? We're going to add 4 to both sides. And again, we want these written, guys. Put the 4 first. We want this written as ordered pairs. How many x-intercepts are there here? How do you know there's 2? Because of the plus and minus. This would be written as 4 plus 2 root 3, comma 0. And what else? 4 minus 2 root 3, comma 0. Are we asking you to graph that? No. But you do need to understand there are 3 intercepts for this circle. 2 on the x-axis and only 1 on the y-axis. Now I want you guys to think about something, just in case you encounter something like this. What if you worked out all these intercept questions and you got x equals 6 plus or minus I root 2? What does that tell you about the x-intercept here? There's no x-intercept. Good. Why is that? Because it's imaginary. Good. There's no x-intercept in this case because this is imaginary. What if you worked it out and you got y equals square, or just y equals plus or minus I? What would that tell you about y-intercepts? There'd be none. No y-intercepts. So remember, same thing when we solved just basic equations and we got i's in our answer, that meant there were no real solutions. So if you guys encounter a problem and you get an imaginary when you're finding intercepts, all that means is, oh, it doesn't cross the x-axis and or it doesn't cross the y-axis. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. But that's it.